Well, today is, let's see, day 178 in our journey through the Word. We are very close, very close to being at the halfway point in our journey through the Word through this year. Been a very inspiring, educational, blessed. I'm just trying to think of different words I can use. Uh, that God has just reached out and spoken to me through this journey so far. This weekend's reading and today's reading is no exception. We come in and are introduced now to the prophet Hosea, whose name means salvation. It's interesting. He is the first book in what is called the Minor Prophets, and it's interesting. His name only appears in the very beginning of the book Hosea. Only twice in the whole Bible is his name mentioned. Hosea, chapter 1, verse 1 and 2, and in Romans 9:25. So nowhere else in the rest of the book do we see his name mentioned. But Hosea, he is a genuine prophet whom the Lord came to him and gave him a word. And it says that at the very beginning, his message is about relationships between Israel and God. But I think if we look very closely, we can say it's really about our relationships between ourselves and God. The very beginning of today, or the reading on Saturday in Hosea, where God tells him to go marry a prostitute. I found that very interesting because, first of all, why would he do so? But he's very clear in the reading where he says, this will illustrate how Israel has acted like a prostitute by turning against the Lord and worshiping other gods. God was going to have Hosea's life to be an illustration to the people of Israel. His marriage to a prostitute was going to illustrate how Israel has acted like a prostitute by turning themselves to other gods. Hosea's wife is interesting, and I think people always poke fun at her name, but her name, his wife's name that he takes is Gomer. I think of that when I think of Gomer Pyle, but that is not at all the case here. His wife's name was Gomer. In Holman's Bible Dictionary, it says she is described in Hosea 1:2 as a wife of whoredoms. Various explanations have been offered for that designation of why a woman would be described as that. His wife would be described as that. It says some have maintained that she was a common prostitute, while others have maintained that she was a cultic prostitute in the service of Baal. God detested that. We know that. We've seen that in his reading, and over he has killed the priest and the so-called prophets of Baal. We've seen that several times. But it's interesting that others maintain that she might be a prostitute in the service of Baal. Some have suggested that she symbolized Israel's worship to other gods. Well, we've already seen that in our reading, but still others believe that she was an ordinary woman who became unfaithful after her marriage to Hosea. But obviously we don't know. But what we do know is in Hosea 1:2, God tells Hosea to marry a prostitute. And his life, as we see, is going to be an example. He is going to live an example for others. It talks about them having 2 children. The first was a daughter whose name meant not loved, The second child was name meant not my people, for Israel is not my people, and I am not their God. Oh, that we never get to that point in our lives and our relationships with God where he turns his back and he says, you are not my child, and I am not your God. Or you are not my people, and I am not your God. He says in 8:12, and jumping way forward in our reading, says, even though I gave them all my laws, they act as if those laws don't apply to them. Is that not true to us today? Do we not think, do we not say that, oh, it's, that was for back then. God didn't mean that. It's a different time. God made me that way. No. He did not. He did not. God is not going to do something against his character. Even though I gave them all my laws, they act as if those laws don't apply to them. We have not changed. As a community, as a state, as a nation, we sadly so many times do not really care. My question today is, do our actions show that we fear the Lord Almighty? It's God's people, or if God's people don't realize that I'm watching them, again, this God watches us. If people don't realize that God is watching them, their sinful deeds are all around them, and God says, I see them all. I see them all. The darkest, moonless night is as if it's midday to God. He sees all. The darkness of night does not cover our sins or hide our sins. God sees all. He's not Big Brother watching us. He is God, our Creator. And it breaks his heart. We break his heart, and as we sin against him. And so blatantly, they act as if those laws don't even apply to them. Again, we're no different today than they were back in the time that Hosea wrote these words. I'm reminded in today's reading, three quick things. Do not rejoice in others' punishment. When God disciplines another, don't rejoice in that. Why? Because our time of punishment is coming. Our time is coming. The time of Israel's punishment has come. We see that in today's reading. And then God, I'm reminded that God will not forget. He will surely punish them for their sins. He said, Hosea says that in 9:9. He will surely say, he says, God will not forget. He will surely punish them for their sins. God is faithful to his word. He will not forget. He will not let us go unpunished. He disciplines those that he loves. He says that very clearly in his word. He disciplines those that he loves. Again, great reading today. Hosea, again, is about relationships between Israel and God. Relationships are relationships between us and God. I hope you have a great day. I look forward to the week of reading, and I will see you again tomorrow as we continue our journey through the